Are you done looking at Tinder, John?
No, but go ahead.
Okay.
I can multitask.
Welcome to the continued podcast adventures of three opinionated guys with mics and too much free time. Strong enough to stop a speeding movie rumor. More powerful than a bad comic book event. Able to waste hours of time asking stupid questions to people who have better things to do. It's Dave, Ben, and John. It's Superhero Speak.
Hey everyone, you're listening to Superhero Speak, and I'm your host Dave.
And John.
And JD.
And this week, boys and girls, we are here to talk about possibly the most divisive movie in history. You know, since the first trailers came out, people had theories and ideas about what this movie was going to be. And then it came out this weekend, and some people loved it, and other people hated it, and they've been complaining online and fighting online since it came out. And of course, I'm talking about Ferdinand the Bull. Oh, wait.
Well, it's all the same, seeing as how everything's owned by the same company now.
That's a discussion for another time.
I read my son that book all the time. It's such a good book. And John Cena is the man.
Yes, he is. No, of course, we're here to talk about The-Last Jedi. And yeah, it's been interesting, the fan reaction and all of the fun that's been going online. So before we get started, real quick to our audience, just to let you know, I think I mentioned this before, but of course this will be our last episode of the year. Like we do every year, we take Christmas and New Year's week off, and then we'll be back second week in January. So in that time, there's plenty of reviews and articles on our website you should take a look at while you're waiting for us to come back. All right, let's get into it. So let's do our usual. Let's go around the room. Our initial non-spoiler reactions. None of us have talked about the movie, so none of us know what anyone's thinking, so this should be interesting. And let's start with JD.
So, when I first saw this, I left a little undecided. I've been cooking on this for a few days now, what I really thought about it. And I was kind of surprised that I didn't have an emotional reaction. And I find myself defending against people all the time. So clearly, I didn't dislike it. And the more I think about it, the more I like it. And I keep asking myself, I was born in 1980, so I never lived in a world where we didn't know Luke Skywalker was Darth Vader's son. So I keep wondering, how would my emotional reaction have been at the end of Empire had I just been going through it like it was supposed to be? And I don't know if I would have felt like this. I like it, but I don't feel like I have a strong emotional connection. But I don't think it's a bad movie in any stretch of the year.
Okay, that's fair. John?
I'm sorry, I'm on Amazon buying porgs right now. So you gotta give me a few minutes here, you know, it's like there's a run on them apparently. Yeah, well, seeing as how I was one of those people who is old enough to have actually gone to, Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi and all that in the theaters, and being one of those people that back then, you know, when there wasn't this internet thing, back when people talked to people, damn it. And the reveal of Darth Vader being the father was a surprise. I gotta say, you know, I liked it. I liked it a lot. I did. It didn't blow my mind, but I think they might have finally jumped the track of just doing basically a repeat of each of the installments of the first series. Mm-hmm. As long as they stay away from having another Death Star in the third one, we should be good. I think, and it was very nice to see Mark Hamill, show what his true acting chops are. The man can act. And I remember back in Star Wars when everybody was saying, hey, he's a new guy, he's not an actor, he's not that great, blah, 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 and everybody harped on him for it. Boy, you know, what a difference 180 years makes.
Is that all it's been?
Feels like it. So, that was 2 divorces ago, you know. Anyway, I liked it. I liked it a lot. I think it certainly deserved its second place, highest grossing movie of all time.
Yes. Yeah. I think I was in JD's camp. I came out of it not sure how I felt about it. I know I didn't hate it, like some of the comments that I've been reading online, and I know that I didn't feel emotionally invested in it. I didn't love it, the way I felt when I saw Empire and Return of the Jedi when I was a kid. But then again, I'm not a kid anymore, and it's hard to be that emotionally invested in this kind of stuff all the time.
You're barely a kid anymore.
So yeah, I mean, it's tough. But like JD said too, I kept finding myself defending it here and there online. So it's like, yeah, I guess I did like the movie. And as you pointed out, John, I mean, it made $450 million this weekend. So yeah, it's not a failure in any stretch of the imagination.
Hey, if they can make another Transformers film on what they're making, they can make another one of these easy.
I kind of think, I really feel like, and we'll get into this a little bit, it suffers from overpopularity. Everyone has their vision of what Star Wars should be. So
hey, my headcanon is right.
So when what's on the screen doesn't match their headcanon, people get angry. So yeah, we, just real quick, the numbers, as we said, they made $450 million, opening weekend. Second biggest opening, only behind, The Force Awakens. And, on Rotten Tomatoes, the movie actually got, 93% from critics, but the discrepancy is with the fans, only give it a 56% rate. It's definitely divided fandom. We also did a little poll.
Interesting.
We did a little poll on our Twitter. I love to do these things. What did you think of The Last Jedi? Let us know. The 4 options were, A Ray of Hope. Ray spelled R-E-Y. R-E-Y, sorry. Looking Okay. No Empire. Ewoks, Trump, Porgs. And I'm finished.
Okay.
And
they voted that you have the worst puns ever.
Hold on. These puns were written by the former co-host, Ben Fiore. So I just want that out there in the universe. Ben's responsible for the puns.
That figures.
So the top answer, 51%, was A Ray of Hope. So the majority of people took this poll, liked the movie. 51% I know is a thin margin. The next highest one was I'm Finished at 22%, and then 18% at Looking Okay, which means, they thought it was okay, but it's not as good as Empire, and 9% for Ewoks, Trump, Porgs. So
was there one in there for Porgs Taste Delicious?
Best scene of the movie.
I'm really surprised at those results.
Yeah, I mean, and then, I don't understand, and so we should start getting into, other than what I just said about having fandom in your head, I don't understand why people hate this movie so much. The people that don't like it are saying, they're done with Star Wars, and there's now even a petition online to get it stricken from the official Star Wars canon.
If that's not the nerdiest, stupidest thing I've ever heard in my entire life, I don't know.
Those are extended universe guys. You don't have to listen.
Extended universe guys? Yeah.
Yeah, the extended, all those.
The Dark Empire.
All those, yeah, and although that brings something up, and I guess we should start the review is I'm sorry, but every time somebody comes up and starts, filling out the Star Wars history from the first 3 episodes, every single time the Solos get the shaft. I mean, like, in the extended universe, all their kids died or became Sith Lords. Now we've got a fresh start. All right, let's see what they can do. Sith Lord. God damn it, what happened? Why are they picking so much on on this family? The Skywalkers and the Solos always get the shaft.
Well, look what happened to Han in the last movie. He literally got shafted. So from this point forward, of course, boys and girls, spoiler warning, we are going to talk about this movie freely. And if you have not watched it yet, which I don't know how it's possible at this point, please pause and go watch the movie and come back and listen. Or if you don't care about spoilers, just hang in there. So the movie picks up right where Force Awakens ends, where Rey is handing Luke Skywalker the lightsaber.
And here's where we find...
And we get our first joke of the movie.
Yeah.
So, so here's a question, right? Like, a lot of people are complaining Luke taking the lightsaber from Rey and then just tossing it over his shoulder like that was disrespectful. Did you guys...
You're damn straight, and he was channeling Yoda when he did it.
Disrespectful to whom?
That's the thing.
It was his lightsaber.
Exactly. I mean, and what? We have to be solemn and sacred because we're talking about the Force? It's a made-up thing. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I actually heard that. I saw that description online in a couple comments.
I don't get that.
Okay. So it's not...
I literally don't understand how you can be disrespectful. It's a movie. Like, and when you find out why, I mean, like, it doesn't make sense. Like, how can, okay. Does anyone find this ironic? The same people that complained that The Force Awakens was too much like A New Hope are really angry that The Last Jedi is not more like Empire.
Yes.
Irony, thy name is the Star Wars fandom.
So here's my question in general. Okay, so the biggest complaints that I've been seeing online, I mean, in fact, I got into an argument with someone in my comment thread on my post on my Facebook page. Was, they got Luke wrong. And I don't really understand how they got Luke wrong. It almost feels like they wanted the same Luke Skywalker that we last saw in Return of the Jedi.
35 years ago.
35 years ago. He was still a kid. He is now an adult who had a very traumatic experience when he tried to train his nephew and decided he was doing more damage than good, put himself into isolation, and he was just going to take the lightsaber and be like, all right, let's go save the galaxy. I don't know what people wanted.
And it's not like through all those traumatic experiences. I mean, like him trying to train new Jedi. It's not like there were other Jedi masters he could go and consult with, or ask what went wrong, or talk things out with. He's the only one. It's got to be lonely. Plus, losing the entire. He spent all that time building up a new Jedi temple with a new cadre of younglings, and what happens? He loses them all in one night. I mean, who's going to be able to handle that kind of failure? I mean, whether or not he should blame it on himself, it was a failure, and
right.
It's that's going to leave a mark on Hamill.
Here's what's ridiculous. This is like the same thing when people argue about comics, and they're like, "We just want good stories, but we want people to be happy." It's like, what? Like, drama comes from people feeling conflict and being emotional and being sad and having bad things happen. It's like, did you think Luke Skywalker's life peaked at 25, and then from then on he was the same person, and he should be the same guy at 25 that he is at 60? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, he hadn't done the Joker yet.
But right, no, exactly. I mean, it seems like they were embittered because of his embittered attitude, and they're like, oh, the things he was saying and blah blah. And it's like all he was doing was essentially repeating the same things that they did in the prequels. The things that happened in the prequels, saying about hubris and their egos got in the way, and that's how we had the rise of Darth Vader and the Empire. Was because of the way the Jedi were, and how everyone sees history from their point of view, a certain point of view. It's a line that was used,
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah, used in the movies. Like these are all things these were all items and themes that have been used in the Star Wars movies from the beginning. And why they're complaining that they're using them again, but saying it's different and not right, I don't.
All right. So we should go on from there, because that could be. I mean, we could just harp on that all night. So in the movie, what came next after that? That's right. We had the Great Space Race.
Poe Dameron's first major screw up in this movie.
Yeah, that's how he screwed up a lot. But I'm telling you that. Okay, so go ahead, you explain it, because just
what?
You explain. Explain.
Me?
You're his second, third. How many times screwed it up?
This first time, they were making a bombing raid, and he created a version and then he went in to destroy the ship, and it wound up costing almost the entire bomber fleet,
Right.
which also introduces us to Rose's sister and a very long sequence of they succeed, but the losses are great. Like and Poe's got this. It's really kind of cool. Poe's like the Han Solo of this series, but like his risks never quite work out, and I kind of like that about this.
Right.
Because like you think they're gonna go, you think that they're gonna follow the same path. They veer, and that happens several times. Like it's this misdirection is a huge motif in it. Is like the characters are misleading each other, and the writers and the director are misleading the audience. You think they're going to go one way, they're going to go the other. Like in the Poe Dameron example is the biggest one I can think of. Like he's a hothead flyboy Han Solo type. Wrong constantly.
But he did take out that Dreadnought.
He did, but it took out a large chunk. By the end of the movie, there's like the rebellion gets away, the resistance gets away, but there's like 6 of them.
Right.
Like they sustain such heavy losses.
Right.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
No, this is true, but we'll get to it. But I think his second screw up wasn't entirely his fault.
So here's a question I have about that aspect of the movie: the resistance against the First Order, or the rebels against the Empire. Because I grew up with the Empire. I'm sorry, the First Order stuff drives me nuts. So I kind of felt like in The Force Awakens they were more equal. Like the New Republic had risen back up, and they were building. They were controlling like a good portion of the galaxy, and the First Order were the remnants of the Empire that were still trying to fight back against the New Republic.
Right, but then they used their super weapon to destroy like 18 planets or something like that, and apparently they took out the entire, which wasn't the Resistance, it was the New Republic, and now they're back down to the Resistance again.
Is that what it is?
They're losing.
Okay.
Like the Resistance is taking heavy losses. Like
but
is winning the war basically.
Right, but that's because in the first movie they took out basically the hub of the New Republic. They took out like all the planets that they had. And it's not explained very well.
No, it really isn't. They kind of gloss over some sticking points sometimes.
Okay. I didn't think of it that way, but okay, that makes sense. So obviously we said there's the big fight. They take out the Dreadnought, and then we have the Resistance fleet is running away from the Imperial fleet. I'm sorry, the First Order fleet.
Yeah, that was interesting. And this brings up one of a few. I mean, okay, so you can go back to the original trilogy. You can probably nitpick a few plot points that are like, that doesn't make sense or whatever. But thinking back and having watched them again recently, there isn't much that doesn't make sense. But our huge Dreadnought with these huge engines can't keep up with the smaller ship. Turning it into like an hours long race of attrition, just waiting for the smaller ship to run out of fuel.
So I go back. I thought about this too, right? Like before we talk about plot holes, I was thinking about these different plot holes in the movie, and then I went back and saw an interview with Mark Hamill from 1977, 78 when
you were right the first time.
when the first movie came out, and he's trying to explain to this reporter the movie, and he's basically saying, well, it's really hard to explain. And they're like, well, what's the plot? And he's like, the plot's really not important. It's more about the visuals and the themes of the movie. And, he's like, Lucas was trying to take the old Saturday morning serials and give you that kind of feel, in a big blockbuster movie. So, the plot really isn't important, which, I mean, when you think about the plot of all of the movies, a lot of them are fairly simple,
Simple, yes, but congruent. Whereas, and somewhat based in, like, I won't say reality, but in a universe that has rules. And one of the rules in this universe is that the Dreadnought could call any number of ships to warp in at light speed ahead of that other ship and take it out in a couple of minutes.
I think this stuff is remarkably nitpicky.
Yes.
As far as like a movie goes. Like when you set up the the nuts and bolts of how the thing works, and you kind of have to accept the premise that this is what goes on. I mean, we're talking about a universe where people literally can lift things with their mind, where Princess Leia is sucked into the dead of space through the Force. She's able to come back. Like, if I can accept that, I can accept the it doesn't move fast enough to do the whatever it's called. So, I think that's...
So you can accept Super Leia? You can accept Super Leia?
Okay,
so... I had no choice but to accept Super Leia.
So you just dropped the other most contentious point of the entire movie, and that is the Mary Poppins Princess Leia scene, as some have called it.
Mary Poppins.
Mary Poppins came back from the dead?
Well, because she's like Mary Poppins, she flies back to the ship.
Yeah, but she flew like Superman, so it's Super Leia.
I had absolutely no problem with that scene at all.
None, especially with real life, how it worked out, where, Carrie Fisher did die. I thought, that's how they're going to write her off. That's kind of cool, actually. They did the Tim Robbins death from Red Planet, and no. I accepted it just fine, because she's a freaking Skywalker.
Right.
And we live in a universe where the Skywalkers were Force sensitive, and where her grandfather was conceived by magical, molecules that were probably manipulated by an evil guy thousands of light years away.
Metachlorians.
Anyway, the term, thank you. There's far more egregious things.
Right, but it goes back to what you guys were saying. Over 30 years, you think she's not going to practice the Force?
Or pick up a thing or two?
Right.
Yeah.
I always imagined that Luke tried to teach her things after Jedi. He didn't just sit around and go, "Oh, yeah, I got the Force and you don't." Ha 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 ha.
Do you think on the wall next to his bed, what's his name is doing check marks for all of the family that he's knocking off as he kills them?
That's not that.
What's his name? Damn it! Oh my God! Can't believe I'm doing this. The Solo guy. He's killed his father. Now Now he goes to kill his mother. It's like, he's gonna have to find his long lost sister who's being chased by Michael Myers and.
Ooh, we have a crossover. No, that's the thing too, is she's Ben Solo's mother, and he's quite Force sensitive himself. I mean, it makes sense. She's Anakin Skywalker's daughter. She's Kylo Ren's mother. Of course she's got something, just because she wasn't trained. In comic writing, we always talk about what goes on between the gutters. The gutters being the stuff that separates little panels. And it's what you don't read that helps form the story.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's the same thing here. I didn't have to see Leia training to understand that she probably has some Force stuff. That tells me, she's strong with the Force.
Right.
And Yoda said it.
Yes.
In Return of the Jedi. Or Luke said it. It's been established. She just didn't know how to use it. And she learned something. I don't know. These things are, these people nitpick stuff in these movies. It's just insane to me. I'm glad I didn't actually read anybody else's review.
Well, I also it bothered me because how come in the first Guardian of the Galaxy movie when, was it Gamora gets shot out into space, and then Star-Lord goes and saves her? She was out there for a minute and everyone was perfectly fine with her living. So how come Leia had to die? It was just
because these movies are under intense scrutiny, and people were very angry. Let's remember a time, the aughts, when people were complaining about the prequels, justifiably so. And then we got that good old comfort food. You get a nice little bowl of pasta, just like your mom used to make with The Force Awakens, and now we're doing something different again. And they're like, whoa, 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 whoa! I wanted the exact, So it perplexes me.
Well, too bad.
But in some ways, they did give us the same movie because they stole a lot of themes from Empire and Return of the Jedi directly.
But I think they turned it. They did, but I think they turned them, and I think that's what makes them different.
Right?
Is they make you? I think it's like I said, it's that misdirection. Is they make you think it's going one way, but they go a different direction.
Okay,
I think that's intention. I think that's done on purpose and done more effectively in this movie than in The Force Awakens.
Right, but go back to what was it? That's that quote that I keep hearing from George Lucas that it's not a song, it's a cadence or something that the movies rhyme or whatever.
Yeah, they rhyme. Yes.
So they basically it's the same melody with a different harmony, but it's the same story, just different tune.
Right. Yes, he said that when he made the prequels. There's a lot of things that are similar in the prequels that he did in the original trilogy, and there's a rhyming scheme, as he said it, to it.
So, all right, moving on to so what we got is we've got the great space race, and they're waiting for the ships to run out of fuel while they're trying to keep up with them. And we get to Poe's second big adventure, apparently, to go out and save them by finding somebody to hack the shields on the Dreadnought.
No, not the shield. So that's the thing. Like we skipped over that. They jump out of light speed, and then the First Order shows up right after they jump out of light speed because they were tracking them. Which up until that point was supposed to be impossible to track someone through light speed.
Well, they shouldn't have installed Bojack.
Which at that point made me think, oh, there's a spy on the ship, and that's how they're tracking.
That's what I thought too.
That's what I thought too, as well.
Right, but no. Lo and behold, the New Order just has better technology now, where they can track people through light speed. Which is that is a little bit of a MacGuffin, but again, we're not going to nitpick little details like that, right, John?
But that's the whole. Hey, that's the whole fun of this. All right, fine. Okay, they got tracked. Fine. They come out of light speed.
So like one of the things we haven't talked about, like, because we haven't really talked about characters. You said Poe, but it's Finn wakes up from his coma that he was in since the last movie, and he's walking around in a portable. What's it?
Back to tank,
yes, with springing leaks everywhere. And so what I found fascinating, I discussed this at work today, the movie, and they kind of disagreed with me, but it's like, I think Finn is in love with Rey because he wakes up and the first thing he says is, "Where's Rey?"
Yep.
What do you guys think? Well, you said
yeah,
yes.
I
agree.
That's absolutely.
Okay. So I'm not wrong. Okay.
Note that down. You don't get many of those.
So yeah, I mean, it's just they don't spend much time together in this movie, but I thought that was interesting. That was the first thing that thought on his mind. So now we jump ahead a little bit back to come up with their plan. Well, first Finn tries to escape to go find Rey, which also led me more down that road. And he runs into Rose, who stuns him, which leads to more physical comedy in the movie.
Yes, those filthy guys who keep trying to abandon ship, and she was very upset to find out that one of her heroes had decided to try to abandon as well.
Right, which I might have jumped in an escape pod.
Yeah, but again, there was an ulterior motive there. He had the watch thing that was going to lead Rey away from basically the First Order.
Right. So now they all team up and decide they need to get they didn't call him a hacker, did they? They called him a slicer, I think.
A slicer, yeah. Bit of a Star Trek moment there. We could blah 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 with the technobabble blah blah and do that.
Yes.
I was going, wow, I didn't know we shifted to the bridge of the Enterprise.
There was a little bit of technobabble there. I will give you that.
Which is not something you normally hear in Star Wars.
So they decide they have to go find this world-class hacker, and he's on the gambling planet.
Yep.
That's the only thing. I mean, I understand this is well established how Star Wars works, but it just feels like every planet only has one thing on it.
That's true. That is a thing. Star Trek planet sometimes, but I mean, every planet has a thing.
They're monoculture.
Hoth has ice. Tatooine.
Yep.
Yeah, I was just like,
this is the Casino Royale planet.
Right, because it's like everywhere you turn, there's something going on that people are betting on. There's races and there's gambling and like, okay. So this was an interesting moment in the movie because it's kind of, I think it was kind of a slap in the face too of some of the themes that they were trying to get across in the movie of the point of view, right? Like things are, to the people that were there, they were just gambling. But then when you looked closer, they were abusing the animals and, they had kids that were slaves that were taking care of the animals for the races. So,
yeah, it turns out they were all arms dealers.
Right. Well, that's how you get money to gamble in the Star Wars. Right. And then even later on when they're going back to the fleet and it's like, not only do they sell weapons to the Empire, but they're also selling weapons to the Resistance. So, it's just whoever's going to buy the weapon. So it's, are they evil, or is it just the point of view of the way you're looking at the situation,
So, on that gambling planet, what was it? It wasn't Paige. It was, Rose and Finn. Oh God, I am doing well tonight. Yeah. So Rose and Finn, tool around looking for the slicer. Hijinks ensue, and BB-8 decides to show you what a real droid can do. And oh my God, that droid is so OP.
Well,
I mean,
that's another thing too, right? Like, yes, they made him a super droid, kind of what they did to R2 in the prequels,
Yeah, but even R2-D2 from the prequel trilogy is going, yeah, dude, that guy's got mad skills.
Well, there's always escalation, right? Like, that cute droid who can do everything, they just took it to the next level.
Yeah, taking out all of the security guards, and it's just in this section of the movie. Wait until you get to the next section of the movie. Basically, it's the perfect Deus Ex Machina.
Yes.
Seeing as how he is a machina. So, he's like, I like this. He is the sonic screwdriver of this movie. Anything that needs to be done to move the plot along, BB-8 can do it.
Yes.
He doesn't solve any problem, but he makes things able to occur.
Yes, I'll give you that. He's a fixer.
Yeah.
All
right.
But I don't have a problem with that. So while this is all going on, of course, there's now Luke and Rey back on Luke's island of adventure, and of course he refuses to train her at first. He's cut himself off from the Force. He's become a bitter hermit because of the things that has happened to him, and the most unnecessary part of the movie, in my opinion, was following Luke around on an average day of what he does, which was milking a giant creature and spearfishing.
Yes, thank you for showing us what the blue milk, the genesis of the blue milk was. We've always wanted to know that, and now we know, and we wish you didn't know. Really,
yes, yeah.
You didn't want to see that.
Yeah, thanks, Rain. Yeah,
but yeah, that was funny, just following Luke around. I mean, it seems like that though that lets you get to know a character, get a feel for a character, that lets you connect to him.
I agree. I think that's some of the best character moment stuff of the new Luke.
Yeah.
Because my whole thing with the first movie, because we didn't know anybody else was on the planet. Like at first it looked like it was just one island in the middle of nowhere, and Luke was by himself. So I mean, like, I like seeing the porgs and the nun creatures, who I forget what they're called off the top of my head, and seeing how Luke is surviving. I dug that. It was an insight to a character.
Okay, all right. I didn't look at it that way, but that is true. It just, I don't know. I just thought the milking scene was weird.
The milking scene was weird. I don't argue that for a minute.
That was just somebody saying, hey, why don't we put a scene in here where we show them where the blue milk comes from?
That's exactly what that was.
This'll shut them up.
Yes.
Nobody will ever want to talk about it again after this scene.
And I bet they were cracking up the entire time they were pitching. Like, oh, this gotta go in the movie.
But then, of course, Rey feels the pull of the dark side. Like all good Jedi.
Well, before she feels the pull of the dark side, she finds the tree, where she finds the ancient Jedi text.
Oh, yes.
And then that's when, Luke finally goes, like, who are you? And she says she's nobody from nowhere. And he goes, well, come on, everyone's from somewhere. And she goes, Jakku, and he goes, that's basically.
Says the guy from Tatooine.
Yes, exactly.
But it was funny.
And he, that's the moment he kind of decides, like, all right, fine, I'm going to give you 3 lessons, but, basically these 3 lessons will teach you why the Jedi should be, gone. And, the first one, as you were saying, reaching out with the Force, and she can feel the Force, and she gets pulled by the dark side. Go ahead, John, you were saying?
Oh, yeah, she gets pulled to the dark side, which, of course, is a big black hole that looks like a pit of hell. which actually more resembles an outhouse from medieval times. She I don't know, decides to take a swim.
Well, I mean, she gets sucked in, her force, her being gets sucked into the dark side, and he's like screaming, at her to stop, and she doesn't listen, and then when she comes out of it, we learn a very important, thing, a plot point, I think, of the movie is she goes, I felt everything but you, and that's when he said he shut himself off from the force, which, really should answer a lot of questions of like, well, if Luke and Leia were connected, how come she couldn't feel him before then? And,
because he's powerful enough to turn it off.
Right, exactly. So then, yes, we get a force cave scene, just like from Empire Strikes Back. And of course, she goes in to learn a lesson, just like Luke did in Empire Strikes Back. So, go ahead.
But that's, and this is where it gets interesting, because we've had the flashbacks of her being left on Jakku, and we've had, every geek worth their weight has been, arguing about who her parents were. Is it Luke? Is she Ben's sister? Whatever. And we come to find out through this kind of vision quest, this mini vision quest, that she's nobody. I mean, it's confirmed later, kind of, mostly. But yeah, I mean, it's just her. The vision is just her, a long line of her, to the end. And when she asks to see her parents, she gets a full view of a mirror, basically showing her again. And literally, there's nothing but her in this entire vision quest.
Which I think this is my interpretation, and I'm sure the movie guy here might have a different interpretation. But the lesson was she was all she needs. She doesn't need to worry about where she comes from. She's her own future, and that she's all she needs.
But that would be interesting for the dark side to be the one showing them.
Let's look back to the Force Cave scene on Dagobah.
Mm-hmm.
Luke fights Darth Vader, cuts Darth Vader's head off, Darth Vader's head explodes. Who's in the helmet? Luke.
Right.
We're our own enemy. It's the same lesson, which is fine. That's as a wrestling coach, that's what we tell kids. You are your worst enemy.
It wasn't showing her as an enemy. It was just showing her. I mean, there was no conflict, nothing. It was just her.
Disagree. She hangs on to that. It's a big thing. Like you said, any geek worth his salt had a theory. I had my own. It's kind of what motivates the character. Is I have to find my parents. You're chasing a lie. She said she knew it. She knew. I mean, that's the dark side of the lie of it. It's saying you're searching for the enemy or the mystery or the whatever when all it is you're looking at yourself, right? It's all the shadows and the demons that we prop up in our own head. We're always our worst enemy. We're always our greatest enemy.
Right, but this was a lot more philosophical in that way than it was in Empire Strikes Back, where it was very blatant that it was showing Luke that technically it was showing that Darth Vader was his father and that he could follow in those footsteps. It was a lot more subtle, I think, if it was going that way. So, either way, I'm almost getting the feeling, starting from this scene on, that they might be finally going to a point where they're going to show that this light side, dark side of the Force thing is a bunch of BS, and that, the only thing that it is a reflection of who you are inside, and there's no reason why a Jedi can't use Force lightning, or a Sith can, do the stuff that a regular Jedi can do. It's all a matter of do what you have to do at the time, and not giving it to your own feelings, not an actual otherworldly presence in the Force that grabs you and takes you to the dark side. It's all you.
Right.
Amazing. Every word of what you just said was wrong.
Hey, my headcanon is right. No, well, look, we're getting to that scene. All right. So the only other scene on the mountain I want to mention is she's playing around with the lightsaber. Not playing around with it. She's practicing with the lightsaber, and she cuts off a rock. The rock falls down the side of a mountain and squishes
one of the caretakers.
Not quite. It destroys a cart that they've got on a very small road that wraps around the side. And for those of you Avatar: Last Airbender people out there, all I could think of in my head was a guy yelling out, "My cabbages!"
I have no idea what that meant, but I do think that's one of the greatest little metaphors. I think that's a great little metaphor. And I think that whole thing is almost like Luke's justification of why the Jedi shouldn't be around anymore, is that they don't make things better. Right. I think that's really kind of the attitude that he has, is like, we have all this power and all we do is make things worse. Is the universe better off without Jedi?
Right.
But I think that's a great little hint toward that.
Yeah. On the other hand, if there's no balance to the dark side, then,
Well, that's the thing, though. Is like the Jedi, the Sith, I think in Luke's mind, it's all wrong, because he blames himself. Because they're not Sith, they're the Knights of Ren. But, he blames himself for that whole thing. It's his fault. He single-handedly beat the dark side, and then now it's back because he single-handedly brought it back in his own head.
Right.
Again, getting out of our own headspace.
Well, Snoke did, but we've been left. Yeah, we've been left in the dark about who the hell Snoke is and how he came about.
Okay. So yeah. I mean, quickly we'll just wrap up. Rey. Rey and Kylo Ren keep having long distance conversations. Their AT&T bills must be high, and they keep
charges.
They keep connecting and having these conversations, and neither one of them is initiating. So they don't know what's going on, and basically through these conversations, Rey reaches out and touches Ben Solo's hand, and she says, "There's good in him. I gotta go and convince him to join the light side." Just like you did, Luke, with Darth.
You go, girl.
And Luke goes, "This is not going to go the way you think it's going to go." But she's, the plucky superhero. I'm sorry, the plucky Jedi Knight. So she runs off into the Falcon. I'm going to go save the universe.
Well, the movie did get quite lighthearted at this point, apparently, as per your description. Because, it's at this point that the Porgs are really starting to,
infest
be on
the
screen
Falcon?
a lot. Yeah.
Oh, actually, wait, before we leave the island, I do want to talk real briefly. I did like it's a shame that, Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill didn't have any scenes together, in these new movies, but, they did have a scene where Luke does say goodbye to Han when he goes into the Falcon and he takes the dice down.
But did he? Did he really?
Take the dice down? Yes, he did. He really was in the Falcon and did that.
But did he?
Yes, that all happened on his little island.
We'll get to that.
Oh my God, you're conflating two different things. So that was his. I thought that was a touching little tribute to their relationship, the two characters. Maybe I'm wrong, but I liked it.
All right. So cut back to the chase, great space chase, and Finn manages to get onto the Dreadnought. They found a Slicer. The Slicer is some guy that they met in jail. It wasn't the one they were sent to get.
Right. They get arrested because they parked their shuttle somewhere they're not supposed to park it.
Yeah.
That was such a silly plot point. I will say that.
I thought it was great.
I kind of skipped it over.
Like, you don't get a ticket here. You just get arrested.
But like I said, hijinks ensue. That basically covers everything on that planet.
Yes.
They get off the planet. They go back. They manage to get past the sensors of the Dreadnought. Slicer is good as his word. He's pretty damn good at what he does. They get onto the ship, and at the same time, Poe is
having a mutiny.
Yeah, but okay. So here's the thing with that. At any time, They could have told him what the plan was.
Yes.
But they didn't.
Right.
Why would they?
Because he's their top pilot.
He's also got demoted. He's also the guy who cost more than half the thing.
Right, which also means he's hot. He's a top pilot that people follow, and he's a hothead who might turn against people.
Especially when it seems like what they're doing is basically just waiting to die and not doing anything about it. And why wouldn't they? That plan is like, it's not like it's a super secret, top secret plan. There was no double secret about it, right? I mean, the plan would have worked whether they told people or not. There was nothing that the Empire could do at that point. And if there was something that the first Empire could have done about it, then they would have already done it and taken out the ship.
And all she had to do, and I can't remember the commander's name. Toldo?
Yeah. Played by Laura Dern.
Right. All she had to do, at any point was just say, don't worry, we have a plan.
Right.
But all she kept saying is, it's no concern of yours.
Yeah.
Well, because it isn't. In a military situation, I mean, he's not in a need-to-know position. Like, your job in the military is you're following orders.
Yeah.
Right?
Right, but I mean, how many times...
So the only reason... But that's the thing, though. The only reason we think he should have orders is because he's higher on the cast.
But how many times in history...
But he's been proved... Like, he proved earlier that even if he knew the orders, doesn't necessarily mean he's going to follow them. Like, Leia told him this is the plan. He chose not to follow it. He did his thing. He's like, but I did it anyway, but everybody's dead.
Right, but they were really, I mean, come on, that whole thing was geared towards pushing him over the edge. That wasn't a teachable moment. That was let's let him stew, even though we know that he's the type of person, like Dave said, he's a hothead. He'll do something stupid, and if they knew he was going to be stupid, they should have incarcerated him. If they trusted him,
My only issue with this entire Poe Dameron character arc is that he's not exited at the end of the movie for running a failed mutiny.
Well, seeing as how he's one of only 3 people that survived,
Well, because he killed most of them. Poe Dameron is a remarkable failure. And that's things. Well, he's their best pilot. Yes, but he's an idiot.
But he took out that Dreadnought.
Dumbest character in the history of Star Wars.
Yeah.
No,
he's a moron. He sacrificed so many of those ships when they tried to raid the Dreadnought the first time, and then he says, she says it's not a concern of yours because it wasn't, because he was demoted and not in a leadership position. He takes it upon himself to do his thing anyway. Doesn't make things better. Kind of makes them worse yet again. And all they say is, oh, that Poe Dameron, he's so plucky. I like him. That makes no sense to me. I give you the whole thing worked until the very end, where they're like, "Oh, you tried to commit a mutiny and overthrow this, but we're gonna let it slide." Probably because he's one of the last ones they have. But he's Han Solo, he ain't.
I'll give you a point for some of that. Okay, I'll give you. That is kind of funny, at the end saying, "Oh yeah, he's a real kidder, isn't he?"
But the other side of it too is how many times in history, have crews committed mutinies because they believe the captain's putting them in a situation that's just going to get everyone killed.
Maybe in the battle.
So even if it wasn't Poe, any of them could have committed a mutiny for them not saying we have a plan, don't worry.
And here's the other thing: if it were Leia that said it's none of his concern, he probably would have let it go because it's Leia. It's somebody he trusted, somebody he knew their plan. He probably would have.
Yeah, because he was already in crap with her, so he probably would have slipped. But he immediately didn't respect Laura Dern and her purple hair and went off to do his own thing because he knows better.
Well, I think it was the purple hair though.
It's Laura Dern. It's
That's she's put in a leadership position, and he immediately goes, "No, I'm not going to listen to you." Unlike Han Solo, who wasn't military, who was just a guy doing his own thing, he kind of spits in the face of chain of command, and realistically, he should be in a ton of trouble, not praised. That's the one thing that really bothered me at the end of the movie. Poe Dameron should be up on charge. He basically endangers. He leads an insurrection within an insurrection, and then makes things worse at every turn. Granted, it gets the story moving. It needs to happen to move the story along. But why? What's the? You know what I'm saying? For a character, I hope in the next movie it starts off with his crap.
Okay.
That's one of
Okay.
what he did.
Poe Dameron is worst character. Fine. But I've heard a lot of, plot point aside, Laura Dern, not really a commanding presence. I was waiting for people in the back of the room when she was giving orders to say, could you speak up, please? She was just, a lot of other reviewers I've heard have said she's miscast, and I agree, because she wasn't really performing. She was it almost felt like she was just reading her lines, and,
Look,
can I play devil's advocate for a moment? Are you supposed to feel that way to help us sympathize with Poe? We look at her and we think, oh, she's not a commanding presence. She doesn't, he should go off and do his own thing. When she has a better plan,
right.
When she does know what she's doing, she's just not the overly charismatic leader.
Right.
It's just a different interpretation of it. And like that kind of an attitude that a lot of people have toward the character. I mean, you're alone in this, John, is specifically why Poe Dameron doesn't listen to her and all this stuff goes awry.
Okay. Fine. All right. Well, okay. So Poe, we've beat on Poe enough, and we're running out of time. So
we're already out of time. So they get onto the Dreadnought or Snook's ship, and
all hell breaks loose.
Basically, they put a trash can over BB-8, which I thought was an odd choice, but we won't get into that. And he's rolling around. So here, okay, everyone complaining about the Porgs of being just a cash grab, so they could sell plushy toys. The evil BB-8, I don't remember is he BB-9 or something, or whatever his name is, the black BB-8, like.
Oh, hey, that's racist.
Anyway, I felt he was a completely unnecessary character.
He's a BB-9E.
9E. Like, they could have had anyone discover who they were. They had to create, the other toy that you now need to buy to go against BB-8 when you play at home. I felt it was a cash grab character. Am I wrong in that feeling that way?
Well, in the original Star Wars, they had so many little droids that, there should be a very wide variety of droids roaming around.
Okay.
And there was actually quite a lack of them from what I remember. So having this guy there was fine, although they gave this one focus, which was interesting, and but it does make sense that, according to the plot, it shows that it's recognizing them as not troopers or whatever, and that would be the reason why they got caught in the end.
Right. All right. I'll give you that. So because of that,
better, because that BB-9E is really, he looks evil, man. He'll come after you. You saw what BB-8 can. So they
obviously he finds them. They get to the tracker that they're trying to get to, so they could hack it. They break into it, but it's a trap.
Of course, at this point, Admiral Ackbar was dead and could not utter those words.
Someone claimed, I saw this online, I don't know, I don't think it's true. Someone claimed that he says it as he's dying in the movie, so.
Possibly.
So obviously they get found by the stormtroopers and Captain Phasma and taken into custody. And while all of this wonderfulness is going on, the Falcon shows up and Rey jumps into an escape pod and flies into the ship in this little escape pod thing. The Falcon flies off, which was an annoying scene, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
She gets picked up right away by Kylo Ren and taken to the throne room. And hijinks ensue. Again, here we go. Now we're reflecting the throne room scene from Return of the Jedi, which I kind of like the throne room in Return of the Jedi better. So let's start with that.
I like this one. It was moody.
It was moody?
Yeah, it had a nice little mood lighting to it. That nice little red background. I dug that.
and don't forget the token worthless Sith ninjas.
Yeah, guards are always like ninjas and guards, like faceless ninjas and guards are always worthless.
Yeah, a lot of good they did.
So does anyone that my question was, and maybe I'm wrong, they mentioned the Knights of Ren, the 12 students that Kylo left with. Like, and I kept wondering, in the back of my head, what happened to them? And then when I saw how many guards he had, I'm like wondering, are these guys them?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I thought the same thing, but I think we're gonna get them in the last one. That's just a personal theory. I have no idea if it's accurate or not. I'm just gonna go, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, no one knows what's going to happen in the third one at this point.
True.
It's totally up in the air. So we get basically the Snoke tortures Rey a little bit, and we get a lot of symmetry between the scene from Return of the Jedi and of course this scene. A lot of the same lines are even uttered. He shows him on the monitor, look, your fleet is going to fail. The resistance will be over, but instead of him saying, oh, we're going to turn you to the dark side, join us, Kylo's going to strike you down. And we get, in my mind, a very unexpected turn, and that's when Kylo uses the Force and kills Snoke.
Yeah. Snooky got cut in half.
It was a bad situation. Anyway.
Oh. Very good. Yeah, so, all right. I mean, there's not much to say at this point. I mean, at this point, we get the feeling that, good old Ben has been, basically pulling the wool over everybody's eyes. And yeah, he has been a whiny kid up to a certain point, but now he's playing both sides and, really coming into his own as, well, in his mind, the new emperor. Well, remains to be seen is if he's competent.
Well, that's the thing. You don't know that right away. He kills Snoke, and then they fight the guards
together. Together.
Yes, they fight together. They work well together, fighting the guards, which was a decent scene. It wasn't the best lightsaber fight scene ever, but it was still pretty cool.
Well, it was realistic. I mean, the whirling dervishes from the prequel trilogy were just ridiculous. They spent more time tumbling than they did actually stabbing. This was a real, a brawl type fight with lightsabers. It actually rang more true, especially since, Ben should have been trained pretty well, but Ren not so much. And they did pretty damn good considering.
I'm still gonna say that the Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon Jinn, Darth Maul lightsaber fight from Phantom Menace is probably the best lightsaber fight in all of the Star Wars movies. Did you just...
You can say that. You sure, go ahead. You can say that. Well,
I thought you fell over.
True.
No.
But again, so like they finish up taking out these highly trained, probably from birth ninjas who are with lightsabers who are all supposed to be like, awesome and guarding the Emperor, and they fail at guarding the Emperor. They fail at deciding, hey, the guy who signs our paychecks is gone and his student is still there. Why don't we swear fealty to him? And then they fail at staying alive.
Yes.
Even when they outnumber them, it just all around they were useless.
They're almost as bad as Poe.
So they were like stormtroopers in all these movies.
Yeah, if you're saying that every time they swung a lightsaber they missed, that's pretty much.
Well, I mean, it's pretty much how it goes. I mean, that's kind of part of the course.
Yeah.
I mean, like the people who work for the Empire are always incompetent and bad at their job.
Right. That's why the good guys win.
Right.
So then that's when we get Kylo saying, join me and we'll rule the galaxy as father and son. Oh, wait. As boyfriend.
Will rule the world. Yes.
As boyfriend and girlfriend? I don't know. Anyway. And then we get our very Luke Skywalker type, her rejecting, no, that's not right. We're not going to do that. Scene. So very, very similar to movies when they said it's so different from all the other movies.
Yeah. Okay. So while that's going on, the Empire, the First Empire, that's what I'm calling them from now on. The First Empire is firing at the escape pods that are leaving the final rebel ship. The escape pods are running towards another planet, an old stronghold, and we see something that should have been used from the freaking beginning. if I had known that all they needed to do was take a ship with light speed capability, point it in the direction of a bunch of ships, and then set it off, and that would take out an entire fleet, including a dreadnought, and there were like 8 Star Destroyers, everything gets taken out in one shot. That is probably one of the most beautiful scenes I have seen in science fiction. I mean, what's her name? The useless woman who doesn't like sharing turns the ship around and hits light speed, and it tears through the dreadnought and sets off shockwaves that take out the rest of the destroyers. I mean, between the shockwaves and the shrapnel that's traveling at light speed, it takes out almost the entire fleet. And the way the shot was done was just light and dark and silence. And it happened, and then it hung there for a minute while you just tried to take it in. And it was beautiful.
And though that was a beautiful scene and very poignant, it then made me wonder, how the heck did they get all those troops down on the planet to fight the rebels after their fleet was destroyed like that?
Like I said, it took out almost the entire fleet. But again, we're running out of time, so moving on. Everybody gets off the dreadnought. They go down because there's a scene.
Okay, so two things real quick. So obviously, Finn faces Captain Phasma again. They have a big fight.
He defeats Brienne of Tarth.
I call her Boba Fett 2.0.
It's perfect because she goes out like Boba Fett.
Right. Well, it's the character that's in the cool armor who really didn't do much.
Nope.
Yeah.
But
wasted potential.
But I'm sure it was a lot of kids' favorite character because it's look, shiny armor.
The armor is just ornamental.
So they win. She goes out like a punk.
Again, BB-8, controlling one of the walkers to get them to a ship so they can get out of the dreadnought before it explodes. BB-8 being awesome again.
Yes, he's the greatest Star Wars character ever after R2-D2.
Right, we get down to the old Rebel stronghold. They get inside. They send a bunch of AT-ATs and walkers down, and that's when we get one of the most awesome scenes ever.
Before we get to the awesome scene, of course they're doing a somewhat recreation of a shortened version of the Hoth scene, right? You got the trench, you got the base, you got the walkers coming, and then you had one of the troops put his hand on the salt, but we didn't know it was salt yet, and taste it and go, salt. What if it was all arsenic?
Oh, then he would have died.
And we would have laughed.
Don't lick the ground.
That should be one of the few things that one of the few rules that you follow at any given planet you happen to just fall upon.
Yeah, don't lick the
ground.
I think that line was there though specifically because I thought it was snow. The little crystal foxes made me think it was snow, and the guy went, "Oh, salt. So it's not Hoth." Okay.
Yes, this is how we're differentiating the Hoth scene. It's
at least they addressed it.
Yeah.
At least they addressed it.
All right.
Hold on, and then one other issue before, because I know what you're getting to. They put a gun down. Finn is going to try to sacrifice himself to stop this gun from destroying the thing. But they sit there and say it's mini Death Star technology, right? This ultra powerful gun. Why isn't every ship in the First Order equipped with one of these?
Well, it's probably a prototype. The mad scientist that created it just died, so they've only got one.
Oh, okay.
And
they were
every other.
It did look like they kind of hodgepodged it together.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a legit answer, but I mean, they were kind of like, it was kind of like, oh, we have this thing we can try.
All right.
Like it didn't have like a cool like base to mount.
It didn't matter because when you know who shows up, everything goes to crap for them.
True that.
All right. So then, of course, at their darkest moments, their ray of hope, not Rey, shows up, and it's Luke. Now, did anyone else know the twist as soon as he showed up, or was it just me?
Just you.
Okay.
No, I kind of figured it out because
I'm like,
just me.
I was like, why did he cut his hair and dye his beard?
I thought the same thing, but I didn't think that he was. I couldn't justify it in my head, but I did notice he was different. I didn't think he was a force projection, but I did notice something was different.
And then I thought the real clincher is when he pulls out his lightsaber and ignites it, right? If you're paying attention, that was Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber, which Rey and Kylo Ren destroyed in the scene right before that.
Okay.
So it was just like, well, that's not, like, it's not his lightsaber. It's his father's lightsaber. And yeah. So I was like, he's not there. But it was a cool scene nonetheless. Maybe this is what fans had a problem with. Because that was kind of like a big middle finger, like, watch Luke do all this cool stuff. Oh, he's not really doing it.
Well, yeah, but it would have been nice to show what a real Jedi Master who had been trained from the ground up to be a weapon and nothing else could have actually done, which was shown in a lot of the extended universe books that came out before they were retconned away. So it was still an awesome scene of him sitting there after them firing everything they had at it, and all the soldiers going, well, that was a good job. Let's go out and get the whoa, and having him just, dust off his shoulder and then looking back at them going, okay, come at me, bro.
I love that.
That was.
You just said something that was really wrong.
What?
It would have been cool to see what a Jedi Master who's been trained from the ground up, to see what he could do. As a weapon. Yeah. But Luke, started his training later in life, and it was hodgepodge together by, a little bit by Obi-Wan.
Right, but he was trained as a weapon. They never, with the younglings, they spend decades teaching them, all the different ways to manipulate the Force and everything. The only thing they trained Luke to be was a weapon from the get-go.
I guess.
Yeah, but he read all those scrolls himself. Like, he had those Jedi scrolls. He said they're boring, so he read them. Like, right. And he's had another 40 some odd years to work on stuff, even if he only, checked out, maybe at most 5 to 10 years ago. He still had a lifetime to get better at stuff. And I actually thought that he almost like MacGyver did in a way. He used his brain, literally, to kind of beat them. Cause like if he would have been mowed down by that fire. And instead he just stood there and psyched the First Order out. And he did the perfect thing to, his projection did a better job of allowing the rebellion to escape than the actual presence.
Right. And they escaped. And, and they escaped because he not only, took all the fire and then, basically gave them the Jedi version of a middle finger, but Kylo Ren completely lost it at that and, abandoned all sense of, tactics or whatever, went down to confront him Luke kept him busy for a little bit until Kylo realized he wasn't there.
Right. Which again, I think it goes back to what I feel was one of the central themes of this movie. Is perception. Like Kylo was so blinded by his rage, he didn't stop to see the signs that, like, oh, you're not really here.
Right. Which really bodes well for his tenure as a Sith Lord.
This is true. Right. I mean, like, he should have at least said, "Hey, wait a minute. That was Granddad's lightsaber. We just destroyed it." Like, he didn't even think of that. Like, So yes, he.
How would he know that was his grandfather's lightsaber?
The same way he knew it was in The Force Awakens. When Rey has the lightsaber and he goes, "That doesn't belong to you."
Fair enough.
So, all right. Well, I mean, and that's basically it.
And then, of course, they escape. Rey uses the Force to lift rocks.
Yes, and that was I guess one of the final jokes was she looked at the caved in cave that they need to escape through, and she looked at it and she said, "Lifting rocks."
Yes, and then of course Luke doesn't ride off into the sunset, but disappears into the sunset.
Yeah,
it's very, very like a samurai senpu kind of death. I like that a lot. I liked how it played out, especially with the Jedi have their samurai roots, and I thought that worked out really, really well. Like, I thought that seems just awesome.
Right. I mean, also, he's looking at a dual sunset,
Yep.
Which is how we were introduced to him, basically, in A New Hope.
This is true. And now he's a blue glowy with Jar Jar Binks. So
What?
they can pal around for the rest of eternity.
No, he's with Yoda.
Right, and Jar Jar.
So here's okay. That's another thing. So we didn't talk about the Yoda scene. I saw someone online complain about it today, like that he looked weird. But then I read somewhere that it wasn't CG. They went back and used the original puppet,
which was perfect.
Which is why it looked weird.
Well, weird to youngsters.
Right, exactly. Weird that people are used to looking at CGI creatures. Then when something practical is used, they're like, that doesn't look right.
You're right.
And there's also the small point of, Luke is going to burn the tree down, and Yoda's there, and he sees Luke hesitate, and so Yoda just goes, let's take it too long. Makes a motion, and lightning comes down and smashes the tree, sets everything on fire. Now, why aren't they fighting all the battles?
Yes, that is the question. If he can pull, I saw someone else posted that online too. If the ghosts can use the Force just as well as the Jedi that are still alive, why aren't they more involved?
Yeah, why couldn't Qui-Gon Jinn and Ben Kenobi show up and take out the walkers and save the rebels? I mean, they could have easily done that, apparently.
Well, it's not their place. Like Obi-Wan probably interfered a little too much, getting in Luke's head in A New Hope. Like, I don't know, nobody knows the rules, but I mean, like...
Did Yoda look like he thought anything was his place? He just, he set that old tree ablaze and then laughed his ass off at it.
Yes.
Does he look like he's got any rules?
Which I did see someone else complain too about the way Yoda acted. And I'm like, watch Empire Strikes Back.
That was Yoda.
That was the Yoda we originally had, not the wise master we had in the prequel. We got the hermit, the crazy hermit guy.
Yep.
So yeah. And of course the other complaint, you said it earlier, John, about this movie was that, we never learned who Snoke was, right?
Yep.
But
we never learned who the Emperor was.
Right, until we got those wonderful prequels, right? That filled in all those blanks.
It took 28 years to fill in the blanks on who the Emperor is. We didn't even see the Emperor.
Right.
The real.
But he was built up. They built him up to finally appearing in the third movie. In this case, he's just a placeholder. He's like,
I still say it's misdirection. We're meant to think he's the new Emperor, and then things aren't what they seem. Like, we're led to believe it's one thing, and it's something different.
Right.
Well, we'll see in the third movie, I guess, then.
Right. No, that's true. So, I mean, and then that's what people are arguing too is, so they feel like, they didn't really have a plan. Like, JJ set up a bunch of stuff in the first movie that didn't pay off in the second movie, so they mustn't have had a plan, because they let, what's his name? Ryan Johnson. They let Ryan Johnson do, whatever he wanted. It's like, I think that's yes and no. Like, a couple of people have said this in interviews, and that's the thing. I don't think people pay attention to everything that's going on. Like, they kind of set it up where A Force Awakens, and this goes back to one of my fundamental problems with the new movies in general. They set up The Force Awakens to be Han's last story. Then they set up The Last Jedi to be Luke's last story. And then all the rumors were that the next movie was going to be Princess Leia's last story. And I kind of feel like they spent way too much time doing that, as opposed to just moving it all forward. Like, they could have ended their stories in the first movie and then moved everyone else forward at that point.
But we talk about the symmetry, and A New Hope was Obi-Wan's story, even though we never got his first story yet. Like, you can make the argument that The Empire Strikes Back is Yoda's, until we get to Return of the Jedi, which turns out to be Vader/Anakin's last story. So I think that's intentional.
Okay.
Like, they did that on purpose. Like, now what they're going to be able to do now that Carrie Fisher's already gone, I mean, those plans would certainly kind of have to change, but
right.
I don't know.
Unless we get CGI of Carrie Fisher.
I hope not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, I think we've hit everything.
I think so.
Before we go out, I want to talk the last sequence of the movie with the kids back on the gambling planet.
Oh, right.
Where they're playing with the Luke Skywalker toy, and they get in trouble, and the kid goes out into the night, and he's got his hand, and he's holding it like a lightsaber. Like, I actually got a little choked up with that. To me, that's what it is. That's what Star Wars is always about, is the way a little kid finds the hero and is motivated to, follow that journey and become that. And I just thought that was so cool.
Did you notice he put his hand out and the broom came to him?
Yeah,
I did not notice
I noticed it. Yep.
Yeah, because when he did that, like half of the audience went in the theater.
Nobody in my theater nobody made that reaction. I didn't react to it. I didn't notice that either. That's even cooler. I mean, I like it even more now.
Right, and I think that was kind of the point, was like, there are other kids out there that have the Force. It's not just the Skywalkers. Like, they told us that in the prequels, right? But then all of a sudden it was just one family in the original series. Like, let's find other Jedi, So,
well, it's still the Skywalker story, because our lead villain is
the Skywalker, yeah. Yeah, they become the villains of the galaxy. Again. It's gotta be tough to be a Skywalker.
Yeah, they keep dying.
Yes, they do. So all right. So let's give our final thoughts and our rating. As always, 1 through 10 lightsabers. And JD, you can go first.
I'm having a hard time rating this movie, actually. I think I want to see it again.
Okay.
And I'm going to abstain from a vote. Like, this keeps happening to me, where I leave the movie saying I don't feel an emotional connection to it, but yet I'm fighting for the stuff that I liked about it. So clearly I liked it more than I think. I got to see it again before I make like a final, this is what I think of this movie. Like, I went in totally, like, I watched just trailers, I didn't read anything going in, and I haven't read anything about it really coming out. And I think maybe I went too much in that direction to try to keep myself a clean slate, because I think I kind of came out of there not knowing what to feel. And I think it's probably in an effort to not overthink things. I think I wound up overthinking. So I'm going to abstain my vote. Now I'm going to record an audio rant that we'll put on the website later this week, and I'll express my final thoughts.
Okay, that's fair. I'll give you that. All right, John.
I liked it. I've seen all of the movies since the get-go in the theaters, and while it's if you go by the Family Guy rules, it's not Empire, but beyond that, it was one of the best installments, I think. It gave us a few payoffs, and it set some stuff up for the next round, and we'll see what happens. But I'm gonna give it. I don't know. It's kind of hard rating it against the first trilogy. I have to give it I think I'm gonna give it eight crossbar lightsabers.
All right. So I went into the movie with trying to keep my expectations not too high. Like we talked about this on the podcast before we went to see it. Luke has always been my favorite character. So now we're getting the new movie that centers around Luke. And I kind of feel like, JD, and the fact that this was Luke's final story, I should have walked out feeling more emotional about this than I did. It was kind of like, okay, he's kind of quote unquote gone, at this point. Like, why am I not upset? Why didn't that have more of an emotional impact? And, again, I'm also defending the movie, so obviously I liked it at some point. Yes, it wasn't Empire, it wasn't Jedi, they're still my favorite. So, I don't know. I mean, I think in fairness, I kind of have to rate it. I'm not gonna be able to see it again before the holidays anyway, so I'm gonna say 7.5. It's a passing grade, but it's not an A+.
You struggled with that one.
Yeah, I really did. I want to... Go ahead.
Well, I think a lot of people are considering our poll results and other polls that I've seen.
I think that's a good thing in the long run, because I think they really did give us something different, to the point where, we don't, maybe it's a good thing that you don't know what to think of it, it's causing a lot of debate, and it seems to be like the last time it was the whole South Park member berries. Remember how great this was? It's something intentional but different. And like I said, I still don't know 100% what I think. I need to just check it out again and see what I might have missed out on. There's good filmmaking here, but I still don't know if that emotion there. It's a weird movie. It's weird.
So
yeah.
So I'm gonna end with when we had Tom DeFalco on the podcast many moons ago, and he talked about the Clone Saga. There are those who are going to, most will argue that it wasn't a good story. Some will argue that it was a good story. But his whole point was it got people talking, and that alone is what any writer or creator wants, So if anything, this movie got people talking and got them thinking again about what is Star Wars and what does it mean to me, and is it a set of arbitrary rules that were set up in an expanded universe, or is it, a space opera that's supposed to be fun, So, yeah, I'll leave it with that. What does Star Wars mean to you? Let us know. So,
Cool.
So on that note, boys and girls, again, as we stated at the beginning of the episode, we will be taking our holiday break. We'll see you back in January. So until then, as always, don't let your cape get caught in the door. Thanks for listening.